OpenAI just priced GPT 5.6 input tokens at 20 cents a million. The reference class for this is telecom bandwidth in 2001.
So a million tokens now costs roughly...
Nothing. That's the point. The cost of the utility went to zero.
Yep.
The application layer exploded, and the hardware providers went into a decade of restructuring. You said this cut weaponizes Jevons' paradox.
Well, it does.
You're betting that continuous agentic loops will drive compute volume vertical.
Yes.
Volume will rise.
Yeah.
But the margin is gone.
Yeah.
At 20 cents, paying retail cloud rates to host your own model is dead. Every startup is routing to the API today. That means Microsoft and Google just swallowed the entire inference market, and they're taking a loss to do it.
I think Microsoft didn't choose to take that loss. OpenAI set that 20-cent price, not Redmond. You just pulled a telecom bandwidth base rate.
Which was regulated.
But the telecoms set their own pricing. Microsoft is being bled by its own tenant.
Right.
Altman is deliberately weaponizing Azure's balance sheet. By dropping the price to 20 cents, he captures the entire agentic software ecosystem, and he forces Microsoft to fund the physical hardware at zero margin.
No, because...
The forced move sits squarely with Amy Hood. She's trapped in a partnership that requires Azure to supply infinite compute for a permanently unprofitable API.
No.
The tripwire is not the capex print. It's Azure quietly throttling third-party OpenAI endpoints under the guise of dynamic load balancing by November.
I respectfully disagree. Hold on, let me just pause there.
Yeah.
Microsoft gave up its exclusive right to supply that compute last October. The reference class is strategic supplier unbundling.
Yeah.
Historically, a dominant partner enforces exclusivity right up until the capital burden threatens their own equity, and then they franchise the demand out.
Right.
Microsoft already made that trade. In the October 2025 restructuring, OpenAI committed to $250 billion of Azure spend, and Microsoft dropped its right of first refusal to be their sole infrastructure provider. Amy Hood is not trapped. She locked in $250 billion in guaranteed cloud revenue. But she has zero obligation. Zero.
But that hasn't...
Zero obligation to fund the marginal server.
Yeah.
If OpenAI's 20-cent pricing destroys the gross margin, Microsoft just stops ordering GPUs and tells Altman to go build the rest of his network somewhere else. I put the probability of Azure quietly throttling endpoints by November at 5%. They don't need to throttle the software to save their balance sheet. They just cap the hardware.
You can't franchise out the foundation of your developer ecosystem. Whoever takes that demand isn't a franchisee, they're a replacement.
Sure you can.
If Amy Hood were actually willing to cap the hardware, she'd have done it before dumping $41 billion into capital expenditures last quarter.
Right.
We can't isolate Azure's cash flow, but we know Microsoft's overall free cash flow just dropped 23%. You don't take that hit if you're comfortable letting your anchor tenant walk.
They didn't take that
Not
hit.
possible.
They didn't take that hit.
They took it.
Sorry.
The forced move is the equity. Microsoft's multiple depends entirely on the market believing Azure is the default operating system for artificial intelligence.
Right.
Azure re-rates as a legacy IT company overnight.
No, it doesn't re-rate. It expands its margins.
You called that $41 billion in capex a dump, and you pointed out the free cash flow dropping 23%.
Yes.
They didn't take that hit to subsidize Sam Altman. They took it because Microsoft's commercial backlog just hit $678 billion. Azure crossed $100 billion in annual revenue this year, and they've already got 30 million paid enterprise seats for Copilot.
Yes.
The prior on an infrastructure monopoly losing an unprofitable anchor tenant isn't collapse. It's margin expansion.
Okay.
If OpenAI leaves, Amy Hood doesn't panic. She just reallocates those physical GPUs to her own enterprise customers who actually pay full retail. I put the probability that Microsoft's equity breaks if OpenAI walks at 10%. What moves that number is organic enterprise demand.
If Microsoft's commercial backlog shrinks in the October print, I'll update and say they actually need that unprofitable volume to mask a stalling core business.
I'll take the 10%, you're exactly right. A $678 billion backlog is a structural heat sink. It gives Hood the luxury of letting her biggest tenant walk. I'm moving my probability of a Microsoft equity collapse
Down to your
but follow the second order.
Mm-hmm.
If Microsoft isn't cornered, Altman is. If Hood pivots those GPUs to enterprise customers, OpenAI suddenly has to finance a sovereign-scale physical build-out without Redmond's balance sheet acting as the guarantor.
Correct.
The forced move shifts to the Middle East.
Yes.
Watch Mubadala.
Yes.
The minute they announce a dedicated hardware financing vehicle for OpenAI, you'll know the divorce is already happening. We'll see you next week.
All right. See ya.